for our class together. I always enjoy when you have the questions, but in case you don't, I have 31 questions ready for you. So, you got a choice. But we can do, if there's something you want to ask, especially about the sacrament of confirmation, I do want to talk about that tonight. Because this might be my last chance to talk to you about what's going to happen on the February 27th and 28th. But before we go there, and again, I don't know if you have any questions that you brought up ahead of time.
We have all kinds of questions.
We do?
Absolutely.
You guys are ready? Okay, now you gotta speak loudly because we got these maps, okay? Who's first? All right, Cassidy in the back.
Did you ever think that you want to be successful in becoming a priest, on your journey to be a priest?
So you mean if I was gonna become a bishop or an archbishop, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes and no. But what I learned along the way, to be an archbishop is a really hard job. And I learned that when I became a pastor. I said, whoa, this is much more difficult than I realized. So that's what convinced me. I don't think I really want to be an archbishop. I don't think I really want to be a cardinal, and I can't imagine myself being a pope. So what I'm going to try to do to be successful is to be a good pastor, because I think that's what God really wants me to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But no, or to have a special title in that, like I say, like a bishop or an archbishop, they've got a lot of work. They have a lot of responsibility, and I admire them that they can do so much. Honestly, I don't know if I have the patience to deal with all the things they do so well. I think I'm a patient person, but sometimes not as patient as I would like to be. So.
And Father Dan, if I may interject, because we were talking about this a little bit ago. And I think, Cassidy, you were kind of talking too about being successful just as a priest, being able to help people.
That side. See, I was talking about the bad side, so to speak, where it's selfish, self-centered. No, the successful part of being a priest for me is the opportunity just to talk about God. Like with you, if I saw you out in the parking lot, I probably wouldn't be talking about God the way I'm here. I'd be asking what you're doing after school and so forth. But here I can do more of that. I love being a priest. I enjoy so much, especially leading Mass, hearing confessions, going to the hospital. It's very meaningful. And honestly, I just wish I had more time to do it. It's really, that way, I do believe I'm a successful priest that way, because I really enjoy that very much. Okay, who's got the next question? Yes, up here, Aaron.
What was the hardest part about becoming a priest?
The hardest part of becoming a priest, I think, is, like for me, because I'm older, that I started when I was in high school. So when I was a freshman in high school, I started studying to become a priest. So it took me 12 years. The hardest part was just being patient, that someday I'm going to be a priest and I'm going to be working in a parish. But it seemed like school was so long at times. So, but other than that's the hard thing. And you know what, Aaron? It was up here. I had to get it figured out that I was trying to make time go too fast. And God was saying, slow down. You got a lot to learn before you become a priest. I should have realized that earlier. So, still learning on that one. Who's got the next question? Yes, up here, Ava.
Can you describe purgatory, and does everyone start off there?
So I heard the first part. Describe purgatory and
does everyone start off there?
Okay, great question. Love talking about purgatory. Heaven, purgatory, and hell. I want to talk about all three because purgatory makes sense because of heaven and hell. You know that I'm going to back up. God the Father, when He created the world, He wanted everyone to be able to go to heaven. Anyone who has a relationship with us, all people to go there. He wants all angels to be with Him in heaven. But there were disobedient angels, we call the devil, Satan, or Lucifer. They tempt us to go to the other place, not heaven, but hell. Hell is the place where there's no love, Ava. So, and now you might think of sometimes you might meet somebody who's so self-centered, who's so negative, who's so upset and unhappy, It's like they can't keep any friends because people say, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be. So what happens is, that's an example of almost what like hell is, where hell is, there's no love. The persons that are there don't care about anybody else. It's almost like it's this kind of person. You know, I'm the way I am. Nobody's going to change me, and this is the way it is. So God wants all people, even those who've gone to hell, but if they choose, you know, God's understanding of love is a choice. Always a choice. See, this is what's kind of strange. A lot of people think God is making us do everything. No, he's always asking us. So here now, for you and me, I'll use Father Dan as an example. Let's say that tonight I'm crossing Eagle Run Drive, and there's a fast car, doesn't see me, I'm dressed in black, boom, hit, and I die. And there I die. Now, what do I think is going to happen? I think I'm going to purgatory. Now, why do I say that? Because purgatory is the experience God has for us where two things are going to happen. He's going to say, Father Dan, do you see all these good things you did? I say, oh yeah. Then he's going to say, do you also see where you failed to love? You were not kind to someone. You were self-centered here, whatever it might be. When you were driving and somebody cut you off and you were ready to cut them off, or whatever it is that I may have done. So that experience of purgatory is going to be there for me, and I believe for most people. Because I don't think there are some people who turn away from God all the time. They are going to hell, and they're going to stay in hell. There are a few people who are going to go to heaven because they're just outrightly so good, and they don't hardly ever do wrong. But I think there's a lot of us in between, myself included. I don't think I'm going to heaven right away. I think God's got a lot of work to do with me in purgatory. And I don't think there's necessarily a clock up there so much as just, it's the experience. And he wants me to know. He wants me to be purified. So my sins are purged, are purgatory. They're purged away. And then, once I get to go to heaven, eternity. Anybody in heaven won't ever go to purgatory, won't ever go to hell. Anybody in hell is not going to purgatory, is not going to heaven. Anybody in purgatory is going to be able to only go to heaven. So that's a long answer, but I just love talking about purgatory.
Can the purgatory person go to hell?
No. Once you're like all of us, you're trying to respond to God. You don't do so well, but you're trying. So you're definitely going that way. You're not going to be going to hell. Now, what about? Let's do a little more of this. I mean, really, we're talking about kind of deep things here, but use myself example tonight. I really am going to be careful when I go across Eagle Run Drive tonight. But remember Father Joe's son? Remember how he got hit there? Okay, so that's why I use that example. So let's say that it does happen, what we're talking about tonight, that I die, and so with that, that's the first judgment. That's a personal judgment. But there's another judgment coming, right? Jesus talks about the last judgment, the final judgment, the general judgment, and that's at a point in time, we don't know when it's going to be, when, at that moment, let's say it's tonight, it's 5 minutes after 7, or 5 minutes after 7, everything stops in the universe. At that time, there's going to be a final judgment, and now, anybody's in purgatory is going to be with God. Anybody alive, like you and me, at 7:05 here tonight, it's either going to be hell, or it's going to be heaven. There's not going to be any purgatory in between. So that's called that's the second judgment, final judgment, the great judgment, the general judgment. It's got lots of names. But you see how there's two judgments? So there's the first one, when we die, and that's where the purgatory comes in for most of us. Especially, Father Dan. Okay. What's it? Anything with that? Aaron, you're on a roll here. Yes.
Let's say, what if someone commits, a major crime, like a murder?
Yep.
Are they still allowed to go to heaven?
Would a person who has committed a major crime, let's say murder, and let's say, because there's accidental murder and there's intentional murder. Let's say it's intentional murder, what they call first-degree murder, which is terrible. The taking of life thou shalt not kill, I mean, it's wrong, there's no way around it. If that person is genuinely sorry for what they've done, and they actually are trying to change their lives around, God would see that, and we understand He would forgive that. Or if someone came to me in confession and confessed something like that, we believe it's possible to ask God's forgiveness for that person there. And they could have the possibility to go to heaven. The thing is, even if they're forgiven, let's say that they come to confession, they're forgiven, they still got to change their lives. They still got a lot more to do. They're forgiven, but they still got to do what we call the temporal punishment of sin that way. But it's possible. Yeah. Okay. Oh, what do we got? We got. I hear the rumbling. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
So like, what if you're in war?
Yep.
And you're shooting somebody and then you kill them?
Yes. Good question. So let's say that you're a soldier in a war, and you're on one side, and there's soldiers on the other side, and you're coming to a conflict where you're going to be shooting at each other. And let's say that you shoot someone, injure someone, or actually kill someone. So we believe that there is that can be that's a taking of life. We wouldn't use the word killing. Others would, but we say yes, you did take life, but it was to protect someone else or yourself. So it would be understood as being allowed. That's why soldiers fighting for our country or any country in the world, protecting someone else, and if they have to take the life of someone, that would be allowed. Now, though, let's say that you're in a fighting situation, and some of the enemy soldiers are captured, and then someone intentionally kills someone there. Now you've gone from the taking of life to now killing unjustly. See, there's what you might say, there's just and there's unjust. There's just when you're defending, but it would be, and especially if someone is, and we see this in war, sometimes with soldiers, somebody else will just say, well, I'm just going to shoot him, I'm going to kill him because they were fighting us, and then they should be arrested, and they should be court-martialed for that. Yes?
What about like abortion?
So if someone has an abortion, again, we understand as Catholics and as Christians that the unborn child is a person, so to speak, even though it's not a person outside the womb, it's a person within the womb. So we believe that is unjust killing. So it's not just taking a life. Now here's the way. Some mothers don't realize this. If a mother has, and it's kind of hard to believe, but it's possible that a mother may not realize that this is actually the life of a child that they're having, taken through abortion. So we believe that if someone commits an abortion, has an abortion, they can be forgiven. But we see it as the unjust taking of life. We do see it as killing. The doctors we see as the ones who really are doing the killing. But the mothers, or perhaps the fathers, are allowing that to happen as well. And that it's tragic. It's just tragic when that happens. Does that make sense, or is that not very clear? Because that's a very touchy, difficult subject.
And that person could still repent.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When a mother of whatever age discovers, realizes what they've done in taking the life of their child, there's tremendous guilt, because now they've realized they've taken away the child. And so that's where they come to confession. The priest will try to help them realize, your sin is forgiven. Yes, we lost the life of a child, but you can still go on and make up for what you've done. And we see that. We see women who have done that, and it's very powerful that way. There are retreats today that are called Rachel's Vineyard, I believe it's where just women who have gone through an abortion, who just want to be with other women who also have felt bad about it, to talk it through, to realize what they need to do going forward in their life. Okay, heavy. You guys are very heavy subjects here, which is good. What's
great question.
Yes, I love this. See, if you got questions, I think that a lot of us do. So which is the next one? What do we got under? Okay, Aaron, you gotta let other people have some questions first. Yes, Lauren.
If someone tells you like a sin, but it's like a crime, what are you supposed to do?
Great question. So, for example, as someone comes to confession, and let's say that they killed someone. The priest has got two responsibilities. The first is the priest should, if it sees the person genuinely is sorry, can offer forgiveness, or ask forgiveness of the Father. The second thing the priest should do, this is the harder part, is to convince that person to give themselves up. That if they've done something seriously wrong, they may be forgiven by God in the sacrament, but they still have a responsibility to society. Now, the priest can't just say, you must go down to the police station and do that. You can't command them to do that. But what you should try to do, what I would try to do, is to help them say, okay, now how are you going to follow up in your responsibility here? And, just, they may not admit that they did wrong or not, but that's what a priest is supposed to do. It's very serious what we're talking about. Okay, who's got the next question? I know Aaron, otherwise Aaron does, but let some other people have a chance. Okay, Eva?
Did your parents support your choice of becoming a priest?
Did my parents support my choice to become a priest? Overall, yes. They practiced God's love with me. By that I mean this. When they heard I wanted to be going to the seminary, they said, okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll support you. But my mother every summer would ask me, are you going back to the seminary? And she did it in a way that wasn't pressure. She did it as a choice. And I really appreciate that, because that's what God does. He's always giving us the choice. It's not like, oh, I've got to do that. I had friends who I could tell either one of their parents were pressuring them to become a priest, or they felt the pressure themselves, and they left. They didn't become priests because they were not freely choosing to do that. But when they choose to do it, it's powerful. Just like someday, for some of you want to get married, when you're making that choice, it's wonderful. But if you feel somebody's pressuring you to be with a particular person, and that, or your parents do, then it's not a free choice, and sooner or later there's going to be problems with that. Aaron?
Are you able to serve as a priest for your entire life, or is there a point in time when you can retire?
Great question. How long do I serve as a priest? For me, I'm a parish priest. I'm always working around parishes. And I got ordained as a priest when I was 26, and I promised to be a priest the rest of my life till I die. Now, I have around the age of 70, I can ask Archbishop Lucas if I could retire. Or if my health was poor before that, I could do that. But so when I'm 70 or around that, I'm going to ask the Archbishop, say, Archbishop, would you allow me to retire so I'm not head of St. Vincent de Paul or any other parish, and then I can help wherever. And so that's kind of what usually, but it's a lifetime commitment. It's not like other jobs where, well, I'm finished, I can get married, or I can have a family, or do some other things. I made a promise that I would stay celibate and not have a wife or have a family with children for the rest of my life. So, and that's a choice I made, and because it's a choice I made, I feel comfortable with that. Cassidy, and then we'll come over here.
Has not ever being able to marry anyone affect you?
Oh, does it not being married, does that affect me? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Or maybe say it again.
Oh, just has not ever being able to marry anyone just affect you in general?
Yeah, it does, because I see a lot of married couples who they really enjoy each other. They enjoy being a mother and father. They enjoy being a husband and wife. So I admire that, and I miss that in some ways. Yeah, because like I said, there's just so many married couples that I admire, and I see that. But I like I enjoy this because you become my family. Now I don't know you so well, but I see the same people at Mass every morning, 6:45 Mass, 8:15 Mass, the weekend. They become my family. They know me. And we spend a lot of time doing things together. The people I work in the parish office, they're my family. This is my home. And it's it's different. It's different. And it's not for everyone. You know, for me it is. But yeah, there's times that someone's got a home, someone's got a family, someone's got grandchildren, got that whole experience. Yeah, I admire that much. Yes, over here.
Can a person who's been married become a priest?
Would you say it again?
Can a person who's been married
Yes. Yes. In fact, question is, can someone who's been married later on become a priest? Is that right? And I'm going to use an example. We had a man who lived nearby St. Leo's Parish. North St. Leo's is by the West Roads, 102nd and Blondo there. It's a Catholic church there. Anyway, at that parish, a man, his name was Bernie Byrne. Bernie and his wife were married. They had 7 children, and his wife died when she was 51. And after his wife died, he was a lawyer, and he kept doing his work for the next 10 years or so. And then he retired from law, practicing law, and he decided that he'd like to become a priest. And because his wife had died, and his children were raised, he was given permission to become a priest. Not here in Omaha, he went to Superior, Wisconsin, he got ordained a priest at the age of 67. I think that's amazing. Most people are retiring. He's just started then. And for 5 years he served there. Then he retired, came to St. Wenceslas Parish for 4 years. Then he retired from that, and then he was out at Esprit Whispering Ridge, where he lived in an assisted living community. So here's someone who, think about it, he had all 7 sacraments. Think about it. Baptism, reconciliation, Holy Communion, confirmation, marriage, priesthood, and anointing of the sick. Isn't that amazing? That's very unusual, but it's possible. It's unusual. The funeral was here about 3 weeks ago when he died. It was wonderful. Okay, who's got the next question? Somebody you have not heard from. Yes, you've been waiting, Evan. Thank you.
When do you think God has been with you the most?
When do I think God has been with Jesus the most?
With you the most? When do you think God?
Oh, with me?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, thank you for asking that question. When do I feel God has been with me the most? Is that right, Evan?
Yeah.
The most is when I pray. The most is when I pray, and there's two different ways. One is when I pray alone, or when I pray quietly, I feel God with me the closest. Secondly, as at Mass, especially at the consecration, I feel very, very close to God with that. And I really want to focus at that time too. I don't want to take that for granted. That's very precious to me. Then there's other times just being with people in real special moments as well. But those are the 2 main ones there. Okay, who else? Any other questions? Because we got, in fact, 7:20, isn't it? Do we have to stop? 7:20?
7:20, 7:25.
7:25. We have a few minutes here. Can we do that? Is that all right? Okay, who's got the next question? Cannot let Aaron do that. Come on. Somebody else besides Aaron. Yes, Ava?
Have you always been close to God?
How do I stay? Prayer. So that's the end, isn't it? Does that mean we have to stop?
Half of us leave.
Oh, half of you have to leave. Okay, the half that have to leave, why don't you go ahead and leave?
Have a good night, guys.
Good night. Sorry.